Hare Krishna. So yeah, welcome. So now in this section, like until this point of time, Krishna was giving how to perform karma, means working without thinking of results, focusing on working as a matter of duty only. Not working. So here in this section, like we'll discuss about how Krishna advised Arjuna how one should work, and also how to keep away the material aspects of the work. So until the verse number 47, 2.47, what does it say? Karmannevadikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana ma karma phala heturbur ma te sangosva karmani. So Krishna says you have right to perform your prescribed duties, but you are not entitled to the fruits of your action. Never consider yourself to the cause of the results of your actions, nor be attached to inaction. So this is the Harish, you want to sit down? You can sit down here. So this is it is said that it is the most misquoted verse. No? Like there are some people like who don't like to work at all. Like they are lazy people. They just depend on some other person. Like they are said to be like parasites. And there are some kind of people like who are like so much into the work, and they said work is worship, my work is my everything, my work is my puja, my work is my meditation, and my work is my goal. So they have that conception that they are called workaholics. Alcoholics, like they are called workaholics. So so here, like this verse, they will take this verse from Bhagavad Gita and says, okay, he says, I have right to perform karma, and they don't stop there, and they say, if I have right to perform karma, I'm entitled for the results of my karma. So but they don't take next half of the sloka. Ma phaleshu kadachana ma karma phalaheturbur mate sangosva karmani. So don't be attached to not working, and don't be attached to the results of your work. So like what is their conception? They think that by working more, if like for suppose it is said that every day has 24 hours. So it as per Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he says you give 8 hours for work, 8 hours for the body, and 8 hours for the soul. So that is the way that we have to classify our day. Means how 8 hours work for the work we already know. It's legally 8 hours in work. That is 8 hours, and 8 hours for the body, eating, sleeping, taking rest, taking bath, everything. So 6 to 8 hours of sleep, and next 2-3 hours of other things, and 8 hours for the soul. Means like that includes sometimes like doing meditation or chanting, anything like that, or reading. So that is the best way to advance in the life. So but the people who are who are materially motivated, they actually what they say, just work 18 hours work, 18 hours a day working, or 20 hours a day working. They work on the weekdays, weekends, everything. So they think that life is meant only for work, and they have mottos: think big, dream big. Until you dream big, you don't achieve big like that. So what is this conception is, entire result that I'm going to achieve is dependent on only me, my work. So as per Bhagavad Gita, in later chapters, Krishna says there are 5 factors affecting each and every aspect, like different kinds of endeavor, and the time, place, and the all those factors, and also Daiva, the divine factor. So, and this when they say like this, no, think big, no, dream big, work hard. So they are only focused success within a rat race. So, like when you succeed in the rat race, you still be a rat. Means you don't elevate yourself. No, like if you see, they are materially motivated persons, like materially successful people. But they are not. They all they know is only work, or all they know is only like are financially successful people. Let's take them. Got it. Got it. So, some there are some people. All they know is just they make so much money. All they know is making money. Their goal is, if we make more money, we'll be more happy. They equate happiness equal to how much money we have. So that is one kind of criteria. And their definition of success, they define success in many ways. And it is said that it is very unsatisfying. So there are different aspects, as a spirit, as a mind, as a they actually, it is said that the materialistic people, they actually sacrifice their family life, they sacrifice their happiness and everything for getting money, and they sacrifice their health also. And later on, after accumulating money, they spend whatever money they accumulated to get health back, to get family back, something like that. So their endeavors are, while they are working in that manner, too much enduring, like neglecting spiritual life, neglecting family life, neglecting other things, too much of enduring, they will lose many things. And later on, when they get money, they try to get all those things they buy back with money, but they still end up in an unsatisfying way. So, as I said, they actually take it as a half-end policy, means they only take whatever they require, and they don't actually fully follow it. So, what should be our real definition for success? Should be if we define our success with infinite longings, like for suppose, if I want to get a house, after getting house, I want to buy a car, after buying car, I want to get this thing, that thing, that thing. So this materialistic desires will keep coming one after another, one after another, one after another. So like this is called infinite longing. So should we spend all of our life in this infinite longing, or longing for the infinite? Who is infinite? Krishna is infinite. He is infinitely powerful, infinitely blissful. So that way you can either have infinite longing or longing for infinite. So in scriptures it is said that like the stages of this material world, like we all know, right? In all our languages also there are vowels and consonants. These called vargas. In Sanskrit, every letter has a dhatu, and this dhatu represents some aspects of our emotions or anything like that. So here in this section, it is called pavarga. Pavarga represents material life. I underline with the red line here. Okay, this pavarga, pa pa ba ba ma. This pavarga represents material life. So pa means parishram, means working very hard, and fa refers to fena, means the foam in the mouth. Like if some ox or horse or a donkey, when it is overloaded, when it is working too hard, it foams in the mouth. So that is phenom, or foam in the mouth. And ba means bhayartha, means disappointment. And then ba means bhaya, means fear. And ma means mrityu, means death. So these are the 5 aspects of all the materialistic endeavors. Like if you are not working as per the guidelines of scriptures, or if you don't know how to work intelligently, then like you'll not see any other pleasure than your success in the work. So you'll work so hard, no? Like if you see some successful people, I told you, right, how the successful intoxicate. For example, no, a successful person, like somebody who's getting first rank all the time, he's addicted to getting first rank or getting in the first place. Or if somebody is outstanding at his work, he will be so mad after maintaining his position that his consciousness is fully focused on that. Now he works day and night. Now he looks after competitors. He's always very, tensed, and like his attention is like that. If by mistake, if they miss it once, then they will be so much of into distress. So, like that is parishram, means working very hard. Like that is why it is called somebody who doesn't who does more than excessive work, excessive endeavor. This is called ugra karma. Like we see industries we name as parishram, right? Where there is a lot of work is done. So somebody may say, so you don't mean to work hard. Like we are not saying don't work. We are saying don't work too hard. So then there is opposite to parishram is ashram. Ashram means where there is not parishram. Means like that's why they call when there is something spiritual. If a house is not acting in a parishram mode, it will be like ashram. Then it will become grihastha ashram. That's why if you see any saintly spiritual abodes, spiritual residences, they are called as ashrams. Why? Because they are very peaceful. They work whatever is required, and then they do bhajan, kirtan, and like that. So work-life balance should be properly maintained so that we can achieve overall success. So when Bhagavad Gita says something, when any saintly person says, what they suggest is, you should work, but you should not spend entire year of our life only for the sake of work. So, and we should not make our homes or our offices into parishrams. We should make into ashrams, so that like there should be a nice work-life balance. And phena means like this excessive endeavor will create different intoxications in the body. Chemically also, that it will release many harmful chemicals in the harmful hormones. Too much of adrenaline, which have very bad effects on the body. So and like what is the purpose of this hard work? So that you can be very happy, so that you can enjoy. But as we all know, the materialistic life enjoyment is very little, but the chance of failure or chance of unhappiness is very high. So then there is a great deal of disappointment. So and fear of this disappointments will create bhaya, means fear of failure, or fear of losing anything that we have possessed. That will create bhaya, means fear. And then eventually any kind of work which is not spiritual will lead to mrityu. Means mrityu in the sense, or we are going to lose our body, or the work we have done will have no long-lasting results. Mrityu means that existed for some time and that stopped existing after some time. For suppose a successful doctor is there, then he is a successful doctor at up to certain point of time. After he loses his ability to perform surgeries, or he retires, then he is no more a doctor. Means his doctorship has ended. Means whatever work he has done in this lifetime as a profession, as in a materialistic way, has ended. He is not going to give any results. It's not going to have any lasting results. So even if he has done good to others, like if you invest, if you give 1 rupee to a needy person, in the next time that 1 rupee might come in the next life. So 1 rupee you're investing here will come as a 1 rupee only. Like, and I should not say 1 rupee, like I say 1 million. If you give 1 million to some like a charity or something like that, you will give 1 million in the next life. So whatever you are not able to, you are sacrificing in this life for the material purpose, will actually come to you only in the next life in some form. But if that thing, the same thing is spent on the spiritual level, like if anything, any endeavor or any work that we perform that is associated with spirituality or with Krishna service as a form of yoga, then it will have a long lasting effect. So the same work will become amruta, means not dying, means it's eternal credit. So so this pavarga refers to materialistic way of life, and apavarga, apavarga means which is above the this pavarga. So there are some nice shlokas in Srimad Bhagavatam. In 4th canto, 30th chapter, 30 verse, Prachetas, they actually glorify the Lord Vishnu when he appeared in front of them. O Lord of the universe, you are the actual teacher of the science of devotion service. Now here you see, Asav evo varosmakam apavishto jagatpate prasanno Bhagavan esam apavarga guru gatihi. Means they are actually glorifying Lord, O Lord of the universe, you are the actual teacher of the science of devotional service. So here, if you see the words here, Esham ma apavarga gurur gati, means Lord is the one who actually gives us the knowledge how to work in the apavarga manner. Means how he, by engaging him, us in the devotional service, we are actually not doing favor to Krishna. Krishna doesn't need anything from us, but it will come under the whatever work we perform as a service to Krishna, work comes as in the form of apavarga. Means it is not related to these 5 factors of materialistic life. And so the next verse, in the 1st canto, 2nd chapter, 8 and 9 verses, it says, Dharmasvanustitah pumsa vishvaksena katasuya nautpadayet iti ratim srema eva hi kevalam. So the occupational activities of a man performs according to his own position are only so much useless labor if they do not provoke attraction for the message of the personality of Godhead. Means, what is dharma? Dharmasvanustitah pumsa vishvaksena katasya. Means our activities should be such that they should develop attraction towards Krishna. We should, as we progress in our work, we should become more and more attracted towards hearing about Krishna, or glorifying Krishna, or doing some sort of service to Krishna. So that is actual dharma. If dharma is not doing that, means that is it is srema eva hi kevalam. It is only useless endeavor. So that is one more definition. And in the next verse he says, Dharmasya hi apavargasya nartopakalpate nartasya dharma kantasya kamo labhaya hi smarat. So all occupational engagements are certainly meant for ultimate liberation. They should never be performed for the material gain. Furthermore, according to the stages, one who is engaged in the ultimate occupational service should never use material gain to cultivate sense gratification. So here, in the I'm quoting these verses before entering to Bhagavad Gita verses. Here, these verses are quoted by Suta Goswami to the sages of Naimisharanya. He's saying, first of all, he's saying all your activities should be able to increase your attraction towards Krishna, about hearing Krishna, about glorifying Krishna. Otherwise, it's only useless labor. Means you do labor uselessly, you work so hard for nothing. Like Papa Babama. Pa means Parishram, Fena means foaming in the mouth, Pa, Bha means Bhaya means bewilderment, and Bha means Bhaya, and Ma means Mrityu. So that those are the results of materialistic way of working. If we don't work in the process of devotion service, see, if anything we do in the process of devotion service is to Krishna, that will increase our attraction towards Krishna. Means like we may be like in the beginning, like the anything that we do in the process of devotional service will be like this, no? Like in the beginning, we don't find any taste at all. Like for the sake of as a process of duty, like okay, we have to fix it, we have to do it as a duty. Like we may sometimes do it as mechanically, coming to temple, sitting in the class, or doing kirtan, but no ecstasy. But as we keep on performing that, we will reach a stage of ecstatic. Means like once hearing about Krishna, by glorifying Krishna, we get so much enthusiasm, so much of inner pleasure. So that's why this process of devotional service has been continuing for many centuries and centuries of centuries. So if there is no pleasure in this, why will anybody promote this? So that's why it is called that is like but something which is actually giving more pleasurable, like materialistically pleasurable. It will be so ecstatic in the beginning, so a very it will give immediate happiness, but later it will give suffering. Like you take any materialistic pleasures, they will give happiness immediately, but later on suffering will come. So now we are moving to the Bhagavad Gita verses. Now Krishna says here, Buddhi yukto jahati ha ubate sukruto dushkrute tasmat yogaya yujyasva yoga karma kaushalam. He who is engaged in nishkama karma yoga destroys both pious and impious reactions. Therefore, engage this yoga in this type of action. This performance without attachment is a skill. Actually, this is not complete. So, what Krishna is saying is, like this is the first verse of this session. Okay, until this point of time, Krishna suggested work with sakama karma. Like initially, yeah, right? You kill your enemies, you'll enjoy kingdom here. If you die here in the battlefield, you'll go to heaven and you'll enjoy there. So perform your duty. And later on, Krishna said, actually, you know what? You don't have to worry about the results. Just do your duty. Nishkama karma yoga. Perform nishkama karma yoga. By performing sakama karma yoga, you'll have a desire. Okay, rationally you may think, I will enjoy here, I will enjoy there. But if you perform nishkama karma yoga, you'll never worry about the results. If results come, happy results come, you will be happy. But if happy results don't come, you will take it as a part of our duty. Okay, I did my duty, that's it, and leave it aside. Means you don't depend on results. Your happiness is not bound by the results. So now Krishna is stressing, like this is a skill, how to work as a somebody who is working only as a duty, he will work with full conviction, he will put his full heart, like whatever work, like 8 hours a day, he plan to work. In those 8 hours, he will do his best, and he will not wait for the results. Okay, doing is my duty. Results will definitely come, because these materialistic results, like in the next verse we'll see, we should not be attached to them. So, therefore, be engaged in the yoga as described here. Okay, yoga yujya. So, what is yoga? Yoga means being equipoised in all the times. Means like good results come, equipoised. Bad results come, equipoised. No results come, equipoised. So, among all the actions done with or without desire, actions performed with indifference to the results is a skill. Skill means that action is performed but does not accrue any reaction. So what is the quality of a karma? Any karma you perform, it will either give good reaction or bad reaction. If you give good reaction, you have to come to this material world again, take good reaction, take birth in nice family, get a beautiful body, nice intelligence. So in this world, there are 6 things that are fixed. How much your birth and your death is fixed, how much happiness you will get and how much distress you will get, and how much yesh and how much apayesh, means how much glorification and how much insult you get, is all fixed. These 6 things are fixed. And rest of the thing is how we react to that is depends on our will. So these 6 things are mostly based on our past karma, past pious activities, how much we have performed, or past impious activities, how much we have. If you have performed so much of pious activities, you will get a lot of good fame, good birth, nice longevity of life, material wealth, and a healthy body. All these things will come. But if you have performed impious activities, birth in a poor family, not very beautiful body, so these are all material aspects. So and so both pious and impious activities are binding us to this material world. But somebody who performs neutral work, a karma, he is not bound by any pious or impious activities. He will be liberated after this verse. Okay. So since time immemorial, each living entity has accumulated various reactions of his good and bad work. As such, he is continuously ignorant of his real constitutional position. So basically, our real constitutional position is what? We are part and parcel of Krishna. And we should be enjoying with Krishna, along with him, but not bound by the laws of karma. But we are suffering here out of our misidentification, with our misidentity. And one's ignorance can be removed by the instructions of Bhagavad Gita, which teaches one to surrender unto the Lord Krishna in all respects, liberated from liberation from the chained victimization of action and reaction, birth after birth. So Krishna is saying, this Nishkama Karma Yoga. Nishkama Karma is, performing Nishkama Karma is a skill. Why it is a skill? Because you should not go this side, you should not go this side. You should be actually perfectly balanced. So that is a skill, how to perform. If you perform, you should not perform, you should not hate or you should not love. You should not do good thing, you should not do bad thing. But how is it possible? How difficult it is, like if a person is there, you may treat him nicely, or you may not treat him nicely. If you treat him nicely, that is a good thing. If you not treat him nicely, it's a bad thing. If you speak sweet words, it's a good thing. If you don't speak at all, it's a harsh. So it's a very difficult job actually, right? Like anyway, you're going to get entangled in karma. You work, you'll get bound by karma. You don't work because you're not working. That is also karma. So what is the point? Why? That's why Krishna is saying it is a skill, because we in the beginning classes we gave a nice example. So just like if a person fighting for the country goes to the border and kills hundreds of soldiers, and he's given rewarded only. He is given government, the king or government will call him and give him Paramveer Chakra and all those awards, rewards, and glorify him. But if the same person picks a fight with his neighbor and kills his neighbor, the same government will imprison him and he will punish him. So in the first example, he killed hundreds and thousands of enemy soldiers. For that, he was rewarded. Those are also people. He is also people. But there, when I killed thousands of persons, government has rewarded me and everybody glorified me, honored me as a warrior, a brave man, something like that. But I just killed one person here and they immediately kept in jail. How? Because in the first scenario, he is working for the government. In the second scenario, he is working on his own self-interest. He's doing it for his own purpose. So if we do whatever we are doing, whatever we are doing for the pleasure of Krishna, thinking that we all know that everything is a property of Krishna. We do everything. We are maintaining family, doing job, our position in society, earning money, spending money. If we do everything for Krishna, nothing will be attached to us. We will be so free. Anyhow, all our needs and all our hankerings will be easily, Krishna will fulfill all our desires. Even the desires you may not be able to fulfill by your own endeavors, Krishna can easily fulfill those desires if they are suitable for our devotional growth. So if we perform everything as a service to Krishna, that will free us. That is called Nishkama Karma. That's why that is a skill. How to engage all our activities in as a service to Krishna is a skill. So next Krishna is saying, Karmajam buddhi yukta hi phalam tyaktva manishinaha janma bandha vinirmukta padam gacchantya atma anatmayam. Being engaged in this Nishkama Karma Yoga, having given up the results of work, the intelligent people, freed from the bondage of birth, attain the place of no suffering. So here, the first one, karma jam. You see, in Sanskrit, jam means taking birth. Andaja means which took birth from the egg. Svedaja means which took birth from a sweat. So Padmaja means who took birth from a Padma. So lotus. So Karmaja means the bondage, the things that are arising from the karma, means activity. What are things arising from the karma? The results of our activities. So being engaged in Nishkama Karma, when we engage in Nishkama Karma Yoga, we will give up the results of the work. We don't know, like if somebody earns crores and crores of or millions and millions of dollars, then he thinks, okay, because I have earned this money, I am only entitled to enjoy this money. Then he will spend all of his life enjoying this money, or if he perform, if he so if he identifies himself with the results, he will either end up enjoying or suffering. So the intelligent people, free from the bondage of birth, attain the place. So they don't spend all of their endeavor only for enjoying in this material world. So that's what Krishna is saying in this verse. Okay. So the liberated living entities belong to the place where there are no material miseries. The miseries of living entity, namely birth, death, old age, and disease, are present everywhere within this material world. So, but who understands his real constitutional position as an eternal servitor of the Lord, and thus knows the position of the personality of Godhead, engages himself in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. Consequently, he becomes qualified to enter into Vaikuntha planets, where there is neither material miseries, miserable life, nor the influence of time and death. So that is clear, right? So anybody who actually wants to enjoy, actually, if you analyze, this body is given by Krishna himself, and our sensual abilities are given by Krishna himself. Like our intellectual abilities are also given by Krishna himself. Some people can memorize easily. Some people will take a lot of time to memorize. So all the abilities are given by Krishna himself. And this entire material world is given by Krishna himself. So, and ability for us, in all the abilities are also given by Krishna. And we use all of them to perform work. And we think that when a result comes, when a success comes, and we think that, oh, success is only because of me. So sensual abilities, which you think that that are your abilities, are given by Krishna, the ability, the energy and the senses that are given, that are also given by Krishna. But when the results come, we only identify that ourselves, means only on the level of ego. So so yeah, why I was mentioning all those things is, if we analyze how much, if a success come, how much is this, what is our role in the success? Like ability is given by Krishna, and the effort and time and everything and energy is given by Krishna, and what is our role is only to desire. You desire that I have to work, you desire I want to accomplish something, so only desire is in our control, and rest of the things you desired, Krishna sanctioned and material energy facilitated. Who is material energy? Durga Devi. Material energy means the Prakriti that we see around. See, Durga Devi is in charge of entire energy. So Krishna sanctioned, okay, he wants to work, okay, provide all the facilities. Just like somebody who wants to do coding, give a computer laptop, give nice coding courses. He learns coding and he does something. Or if somebody wants to build something, give cement, give bricks, give machinery, and give him the labors also. So then what do? You only have the desire, I want to build something like this. So we only we can only desire, and everything is provided by the material energy himself. Now, like for example, I want to, like you might be preparing at home. I want to go to temple, to discuss about Bhagavad Gita. You have that desire. Krishna facilitated, okay, right on time. Then nice weather, car, and everything is given by Krishna. And then you come here, you sit here. And if you at that point of when you're at home, if you desire, okay, now today, this week, let us go somewhere, let us go to movie or something like that. Still material energy, okay, he wants to go to movie this week, provide everything. Krishna will provide that also, okay, go to movie, go to the scene there and there. So, and results will come for both the things. And the results will depend on what you desired previously. Just like it is, like we are like a small child, right? When a child asks father, I want that chocolate, I want this, I want that. Child eats and child gets diseased. But why should Krishna give if he thinks that it is going to be bad for us? Why won't he give only good things for us? Because Krishna, like based on your previous karma, Krishna gives us free will. How much you can influence, how much freedom you can have. And he sees how you want to utilize your freedom in this lifetime. Based on that, you'll either get promoted or demoted. If we misuse our freedom, then our freedom in the next life will be restricted. Means like somebody who actually enjoys only on the sensual platform, who spends entire of their life on the sensual platform only, like somebody who is living like animals. In their next life, they will take birth as animals, and their freedom will be restricted. As a human being, we have a lot of freedom. We don't feel anxiety. We have the analytical knowledge. We have the thinking ability. But if you see the animals, we might think that animals are free. Animals don't have any anxiety. Animals have far more anxiety than us. If you see some birds, like one person was there, he was saying, one sage comes to him, and said, he was a king actually, and okay, sage comes, okay, what do you want in life? That person says, I want to be free. I don't want all these anxieties, all these responsibilities. I want to go and fly in the sky like a free bird. Then sage gives, okay, I'll give some mantra, you utter that and you will become a bird, and you can enjoy freely in the sky. So he utters mantra, he becomes a bird, and he starts flying. So nicely enjoying, flying wherever he wants, nice sun, nice weather, going. Immediately after some time, he finds somebody following him. So he looks back, one eagle is following him. Oh, so he flies in a hurry, and then goes there. Okay, some grains are there. Okay, he started eating. Some hunter started coming, and some other animal is trying to kill him. So that's why if, then he realized that no life is free from anxiety. So then he comes to the stage and said, okay, give me my life back. I would like to be human. So if you see animals also, like they're constant in anxiety. Like if you see birds, when they are eating grains, they'll eat 2 grains and look around. So if somebody is coming to harm us. Animals, they don't know. They act by instincts only. Okay, when they got hungry, they eat. Then they got thirsty, they drink. But their freedom is restricted to that level only. They don't have thinking ability. Why we are here? Why I'm suffering here? What is the purpose of my life? They don't have any ability. They just live like animals. Like they are like kids. Kids only like they will eat and they will enjoy. Like their consciousness. As the consciousness develops, the kids will have different emotions, like laughing, crying, and affectionate to somebody, or showing love. All those things will develop. And the animals are on the basic level only throughout their life. They only eat, sleep, mate, and defend. So, based on how we use our free will, based on how we use our freedom, our progress in life will um, progress in spiritual life depends. Okay, so there is a nice story actually. Like there was a wealthy merchant. He was traveling to some far off pilgrimage. So and one thief, he was roaming in disguise. He sees this wealthy merchant. So he joins him like a co-passenger, co-pilgrimage, pilgrim, and then he says, he started asking questions. Where are you coming from? What you do? Where are you going? Like that. Then in his conversation, what he finds is he thinks that he is a very wealthy person. He has a lot of money. He is planning to visit many places. So if he is planning to visit many places, means he is carrying a lot of money. So then he thinks, okay, I will assist him and somewhere, and then whenever possible, I will kill him and I will take the money. So they used to travel, and then he used to plan like I'll do it in the robbery in the night. So they used to travel, and finally in the evening, first this thief will pretend to go to sleep. He go to sleep first, and then this wealthy pilgrim, he will go to sleep later. So in the middle of night, this thief will wake up, and he searches everywhere where he kept money, where he kept money, where he kept money. So he doesn't find money anywhere. So then he again comes here and goes to sleep. And next day he continues, pretends as if nothing happened, and starts traveling. So in that way, that thief and this pilgrim, they finished all the pilgrim places. And finally they are about to reach the hometown. And this thief stops and tells his real identity. Sir, please excuse me. I'm not actually what you're thinking. I'm a thief. I know that you have a lot of money, like because he searches all night. Next day morning, that merchant wakes up and counts his money in front of him. Okay, this much money I have. And in the night time, wherever I see, I see your clothes, I see your dresses, I see your chappal, I see everywhere, but I don't find anywhere where like we go to sleep every day in the same room, but where you actually hide this money? Then this pilgrim said, yes, I know that you are a thief. That's why while going, answer? With the thief itself. Yeah, I actually hide in your pillow only. So this thief was looking for money everywhere, but not in his pillow. So the same way, the happiness is within us. Happiness, we are not, when we look outside, we don't get. As much as we look inside, we find more and more happiness, because inside means going into spiritual life. So next Krishna says in this verse, Yada te moha kalilam buddhir vyatitarasyati tada gantasi nirvedam srotavyasya srutasya cha. When your intelligence has completely renounced that the densest of ignorance, you will be indifferent to all that has been heard of and all that will be heard concerning fruits of action. So what is Krishna saying? When your intelligence has completely renowned the denseness of ignorance, you will be free, you will be indifferent to the all that has been heard and all that will be heard concerning to the fruits of action. So until this point of time, what we were hearing from our early childhood, you grow up, study well, and you earn a lot of money, lot of happiness, lot of relatives, lot of friends, and you'll be very happy. And you'll achieve more, you'll be more happy, like that. So, but what Krishna is saying, when your intelligence is completely renowned, means when you develop this renunciation for the fruits of action, then your real intelligence will develop. The denseness of ignorance, free from the denseness of ignorance, and you will be indifferent all that has been heard and all that will be heard concerning to the fruits of action. So fruits of action, fruits themselves are not going to give us pleasure. As I said, engaging that, the duty itself is our source of pleasure, and engaging that duty as a service to Krishna is the real pleasure. So, but you may say duty, like performing work, nobody likes to enjoy the work, right? We'll always, as soon as you go to office, you'll be waiting when I will get out of the work. So work will not give us pleasure, but when we perform work as a devotion to Krishna, that will give us pleasure. But still, work is work. It doesn't make any difference for us, right? Do you think like, okay, from tomorrow onwards, I'm going to work for Krishna, but immediately your work will transform, your entire office will transform into temple, and nothing will happen. The same boss, same associates, and same office, but the consciousness with which we work differs, and also our interest on the results. The most of the time, our suffering or happiness depends on our attachment to the fruits of our action. If I desire, like we are expecting, okay, I want to get some promotion, or I want to get this prize or this reward or something like that. When we are so much attached to that thing, then it depends. Like if we get that, we'll be happy. If we don't get, we'll be disappointed. But if we work as a part of a duty, but when we work for Krishna, we have to give the best to Krishna, right? We have to give, like if you are maintaining family, you should not think that this family is for my pleasure. This family is for Krishna's pleasure. The wife should serve family, thinking that this is Krishna's family, this kid is Krishna's kid, my husband is Krishna's representative, and take care of them, everybody. And husband should serve, okay, this is Krishna's child, and my wife is also Krishna's servant, and he's Krishna's devotee, I should be serving him. I should be assisting him, bringing more closer to Krishna. So, and in order to maintain the family, I'm going to work. So, and when you go for shopping also, when we do anything as an offering to Krishna, there will be a great transformation in our consciousness. And this attachment to the results will be very less. And even if suffering situation comes, not just like in Arjuna's case, like some suffering situations comes in, like now we see in many people's life, we'll be easily able to handle it. How? Because it is somebody was giving definition, like unhappy devotee is a oxymoron. Just like some opposite incompatible words are there, right? So devotees are always happy. If they get suffering, they will take as a blessing of Krishna. If they get happiness, they take that also as a blessing of Krishna. In their suffering condition, they become more close to Krishna. In their happy condition, they become close to Krishna. So they are always Krishna conscious, and they take everything as a Krishna's mercy. So when you are equipoised both in happy and distressful situation, there is nothing that can disturb us. So that's why our definition for what we have been hearing about the fruits of action will change. when we perform this Nishkama Karma more and more. So, in this words, when your intelligence is indifferent to the Vedas because of being fixed and you are situated in Samadhi, then you will attain the status of Jivan Mukta. So actually why Krishna is saying when your intelligence is indifferent to the Vedas, because Vedas are some things which are actually recommend fruits of action. Means like if you want this thing, if you want a kingdom, you perform this yagya or this yaga, or if you want good children, you perform this putra kameshti yagya, like that. And if you want more knowledge, you worship the demigod. If you want good health, you worship this demigod. So the Vedas have yajnas, yagas, homas, and different ways of getting everything. So this they deals with most of the materialistic endeavors. When the materialistic endeavors are, these materialistic endeavors mostly are centered around sense gratification, being materially happy. So it is said that when one worships demigod, the demigods are like like shopkeepers. For demigods, if you go to the shopkeeper and give like whatever the currency, the price demands to a product, he has to deliver you. Otherwise, it's illegal thing. He can, like in America, they can sue us also. This person is providing a shop and I gave you the right amount, but he is not giving me. So that is like if a child is there, like if a child takes like whatever the cost of a cigarette pack and goes to like $10 a cigarette pack and goes to shopkeeper and gives this $5, then he should give a cigarette pack, even if it is like if it is like this in India. Here they won't give because of government restrictions. He will definitely give. Means the demigod. That's why we discussed about the example of Kunti Maharani, right? So the Vedas recommend this materialistic things. It deals with three modes of nature. Means like enjoying in the mode of goodness, enjoying in the mode of passion, and enjoying in the mode of ignorance. So basically, why Krishna is saying Vedas is, in those days the process of enjoyment is according to Vedas. Even the process of enjoyment also was performed according to the Vedas. And Krishna is saying, don't be attached to this, be indifferent to this Vedas. And you perform all these activities as a service to me, service to Krishna. So, so these Vedas are we reserve ours is Sanatana Dharma based on the Vedas, right? So, what is Sanatana Dharma? Sanatana means performing devotional service. Sanata means who is Nata, with not. Anata means without any guardian, right? Sanata means with guardian, with master. Anata means without a master. So Sanatana means, Sanatana Dharma means Dharma, the duty which is referring to the service of Nata, means the Srinath. Who is Srinath? Krishna. Or is the main is God. So that is Sanatana Dharma. That is Sanatana Dharma is our real Dharma. But the Vedas deals with Dharma in indirect manner. Like first they address, because Krishna says if you want anything other than bhakti, go to some demigods, all these cheap things. Because this anything other than bhakti is going to entangle us and make us suffer more. But even for materialistic desires also, we can approach Krishna. But what Krishna does, first purify us. First, Krishna gives this indulgence. See, this is what you are taking. You have to this with this responsibility with the like for example, Dhruva Maharaj wanted to have a kingdom greater than his grandfather. So he went even when he was 5 years old, he went to forest and did tapasya, and Krishna appeared. And Krishna didn't give kingdom to Dhruva. First, he gave the knowledge. He is the head of Dhruva with the conch shell, and with that touch, Dhruva got all the knowledge of all scriptures. And as soon as he got the knowledge, he realized he made a mistake, desiring some materialistic thing, and he immediately said, "My lord, I came for broken pieces of glasses. Now I achieved a rare diamond. I don't need any materialist. I don't want any kingdom." But Krishna says, but that was your desire. Now you got the knowledge, take this kingdom also. So Krishna gave him Drupada. Means even if all the planets are destroyed, Drupada, even Brahmaloka will be destroyed, but Drupada will remain as it is. So that is the thing. Like Krishna gives the knowledge first and then gives the wealth. It doesn't mean that we should, if you have any material desires, no, you should not approach Krishna. You should definitely approach Krishna, but Krishna knows what to give to whom at what time. When Krishna gives something, it is going to give. It will elevate us in our devotional service. No, if somebody is making some endeavor, no, like no, any endeavor, no. But if it is not fructifying, no, it is not coming to truth, no, it is not fulfilling, because Krishna is holding it so that he will give the right time. So that if you get that result right now, it might have ill effects on many. You may get side effects also, many side effects, which may worsen our condition. So that's why Krishna doesn't give. So whatever Krishna gives at the right time, at the right quantity he will give. So that's why. But if it is demigods, they don't have any choice. Demigods cannot think so much about us. Demigods, okay, my duty is you have asked, I have to give. That's it. They give and go, and it is for us to suffer. So that's why Krishna is saying, when our intelligence is indifferent to the Vedas, because when I refer to Vedas are in those days Vedas, but in these days our endeavor, working in the offices, no, maintaining families, maintaining communities, all those things are different types of endeavors for pleasures. So be indifferent to them and being fixed in samadhi, means being united to Krishna, with Krishna through the process of bhakti, we will be able to not only achieve the results of this material world. We will definitely, when we perform karma, even in bhakti also, it will definitely give the results, whatever we desire, but it will be free from the bondage. So you will get results both for this world and for the next world also. But at the end, you will be liberated from the material existence. So that's why you will be able to rise above this apavarga, means will be situated in apavarga rather than pavarga. So that is the end of the session. If you have any questions or comments, any questions?
So you said that Vedas in today's days, is it just karma or?
Prabhuji,
Just a minute.
Prabhuji, even demigods is under there. So
No, wait, Prabhu. Actually, somebody is asking your question. Okay, just a minute. Yeah.
So you said that Veda in today's world it is karma. I was thinking that Veda is different from the Vedas like Rig Veda.
No. Actually, I didn't say how that shloka is relevant to us. Because in those days, even for the sake of pleasure, they used to perform activities according to Vedas. But for us, we don't follow Vedas. We don't have any knowledge of Vedas. Like if you want to if you're not getting babies, what you do? You go to doctors and you do different things, right? So we have different types of endeavors. But Krishna was giving that example of Vedas because don't be attached to the fruits of action. That's so it might be any fruits of action, like it might be your career, it might be your family, it might be your society thing or anything like that. So like main thing is we work everything as a service to Krishna in the process of we have to dovetail all our working propensities in the service of Krishna, and we should not be attached to the results of action. Anybody have any questions here? Yes, bro. Hare Krishna. You can ask Anand. Hare Krishna. Who was asking question? Venkat Balam, Prabhu.
Yeah. Sorry, Prabhu. Actually, as per the scriptures, as you discussed in the class, demigods are under the supervision of Lord Krishna. Is that correct?
What is it?
Demigods are appointed by Sri Krishna.
Yes.
So what are the things
are represented
to demigod? Ultimately, should go to the Krishna.
What is that ultimately go to Krishna?
So you are saying that if different people are different praise to the different demigods, no?
Hmm.
So if that is the case, so Krishna ultimately it goes to the Krishna only, not anybody else.
Yeah, that's why
Ultimately,
Krishna says
all
that
rivers
is
it
indirect
merge into
worship
the
of
like no
Krishna.
sea.
That is, if you worship demigods, that is indirect worship of Krishna.
Oh,
But
not
indirectly,
direct
Krishna
worship.
is also worshipping Krishna.
So not directly related to the Krishna.
Not direct worship of Krishna. See, you give gift to you pay taxes to government officer. Hmm? Or when king come directly to your hometown, you directly meet king and give to him. So meeting king and directly giving him as a gift or no, that will actually develop a friendly bond between you and the king.
King.
But if you give to his representative cannot show all the emotions, all the friendly gestures that you have mentioned. You may have developed some friendly relationship with the officer, no? But here, if you actually serve demigod, the demigods can give some material comforts in this lifetime, but the demigods cannot give mukti. Only Krishna can give liberation. That's why Krishna's name is called Mukunda. Means who can be able to give liberation. Or if you serve demigods, you may actually at most go to their abode. Like if you serve Brahma, if you will go to Brahma Loka. If you serve Shiva, you go to Kailasa, and if you serve Indra, you can go to heavenly planets, like that. If you worship Surya, you'll go to Surya Loka.
But
But
again, we have rebirth.
yeah, but there is a chance of falling down from the demigods abode. Like when you are in the Surya Loka, if you after the end of this Kalpa, all the lokas, including Brahma Loka, Surya Loka,
Yeah.
and all the Swarga Loka, everything is destroyed. So then again you'll fall into this material existence. But when you go to the heaven, the Vaikuntha or Golok Vrindavan, then they will not be destroyed. They are eternal. They are spiritual planets. So
Then the highest attainment.
yeah. So the same worship, if you perform to demigods, you will get immediate results, material benefits. But if the same worship it is directed to Krishna, you will get material benefits. It might come late, but it is going to be eternal. You will going to get eternal benefits.
Ritual. Okay, thank you.
Do you have any more questions?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Mataji.
I have one question. We did talk about desire, which comes from Indris. When we are starting spiritual world or life, and still we have desires, so desire should be suppressed, or it should be we should leave them the way they are and do the spirituality, and it will decrease by itself. How does it work?
Mataji, actually, see, like if you have some desires, no, like
Right.
it is unethical desires, we try to tolerate them. Like,
Right.
but if it is ethical desires, means like for suppose you want to eat something, like then you offer that the same thing to Krishna, and then eat it as a prasadam. Or if you want to, if you want to construct something, or if you want to, you can engage everything in the service of Krishna. It is said that you can engage all the emotions in the service of Krishna except envy.
Right.
So like Hanuman engaged his anger in the service of Lord Ram.
Right.
And Arjuna also engaged his anger in the service of Lord Krishna. And Gopis engaged the lust in the service of Krishna. And like friendship, all those emotions can be engaged in the service of Krishna. So if you have any desires, you can spiritualize all the desires, but under the guidance of a bona fide spiritual master. You should first consult, okay, this is what I'm planning to do. No, is it authorized or not? You have to first get an opinion from him, from her, and then you can engage your desires in the first as a service to Krishna. And see, like for example, I'll give a nice example. If you are Jai Shri Radha Gopi, so if you are hankering, like I want to eat some biryani or something like that, but that day you didn't get any biryani, then you, instead of biryani, you eat chapati. After you eat chapati, you don't feel that much hankering for biryani. Means if you perform something closer to that, which is then your hankering will go down. Now, if you want to watch some videos, watch Krishna conscious videos. If you want to listen to music, watch Krishna conscious music, or anything that can be all these aspects. Now, if you want to dance for a kirtan, or come to the temple. Anything can be engaged in service of Krishna.
Right.
But there are some sinful actions like meat eating, intoxication, illicit sex, and gambling. They can never be engaged from Krishna, and they should be always kept far distance. If you know that is they are going to entangle us into this material world, and they will be causes of suffering. Life.
Right.
So except that everything can be engaged in service of Krishna, and like Krishna, when one engages in the service of Krishna, this hankering of the senses will go down. That is the benefit. Now, even like if you see in Srimad Bhagavatam, somebody whose senses are wild, when they engage in the service of Krishna, the hankering of the senses, the pull of the senses will go down. Because Krishna's name is Rishikesha, means controller of the senses. He can control all our senses nicely.
Right. Right.
You got your answer, Mataji?
Yes, I did.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, Prabhuji, one more question. So
Yes.
when we are preaching demigod,
Talk
that
loudly,
is-
Prabhu. You talk loudly.
So when we are preaching demigod, that is also no, basically that depends upon the karma, everything by Bhagavan only. That is guided by Bhagavan. So everything is controlled by Krishna. In that case, when you even preaching to preach demigods also, it is a part of his mercy. Is that correct?
When you preach to demigods, what preach about
For
demigods?
example, so instead of going to the Krishna, why the people are going to the demigods? Some benefits.
Yeah.
You said some material benefits.
Hmm.
What is that? That is also, that is well and wish by Krishna only, no? Whether to go to the
No, that
demigods,
is, I already said, right? That is indirect worship. Now, if you can approach for the same thing to Krishna, and you'll get a benefit. Like if you approach for
No, I'm
if
not
you want
talking
to
about
eat,
benefit, Prabhuji. I'm talking about the initial, what do you call,
no, it is
intention to
better.
go to the
That's what
demigod
I'm
or
telling, bro.
go to the
Wait.
Krishna.
Listen to me. It is better to approach for everything to Krishna only, because like if you approach for everything to Krishna, then Krishna will see, okay, he doesn't go to anywhere. He is he is Sharanagati, means he is fully surrendered to me. He is like he's when you are fully surrendered to me, when you fully surrendered to Krishna takes complete responsibility of you. But if you think, okay, for this I will go to that demigod, for this I will go to these demigods, and Krishna will think, okay, you will wait for 2 days, and third day you will go to some demigod. So he will not take you seriously.
Okay.
You understood, right? But as I said, any benefit that you get from other demigods is binding us to this material nature. But anything that we get from Krishna is liberating. It will not bind us to this material world.
So in that case, law of karma also applies in this case, Prabhu.
Yeah, that comes under approaching demigods, comes under pious karma. Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
We'll end it here. Granthra Srimad Bhagavatam Taki Jai Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.
Jai. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.